Why you can't stop overthinking. You've been lying there for hours. Your body's exhausted, your eyelids are heavy, but your mind, it's wide awake, running a marathon, replaying the awkward thing you said 4 days ago, imagining how your job interview tomorrow might go wrong, thinking about what could happen, what should have happened, and what probably won't happen, over and over again. That endless cycle? That's overthinking. It's not just you. There's a whole psychological system behind it. Overthinking feels like a mental traffic jam. Your thoughts pile up, one over the other. You try to find an exit, but there's none in sight. Everything feels important. Every tiny detail needs to be analyzed. Your mind insists on figuring it out now. But the truth is, overthinking is your brain's overprotective way of trying to prevent pain, to keep you safe. It's not a flaw, it's actually a survival tool. Back in the day, like way back, humans needed to predict danger. If you walked into the wrong cave or trusted the wrong person, it could literally be the end. So your brain learned to anticipate problems before they happened. That meant running every scenario, playing out every possible outcome. Fast forward a few thousand years, and you're sitting on your couch, spiraling over whether someone's mad at you because they left your message on read. Same brain, different threat. You're not dodging predators now. You're dodging rejection, embarrassment, failure, social pain. And the brain doesn't really know the difference. Pain is pain. Psychologists have found that the brain actually processes emotional pain in the same areas. It processes physical pain. So when you think about a breakup, or a mistake you made, or the fear of being judged, it lights up the same alarm bells in your brain as if you touched a hot stove. That's why you overthink. Your mind's trying to save you from emotional wounds. Overthinking isn't random. It tends to show up in smart, introspective, emotionally aware people. People who notice everything. Tiny shifts in tone, subtle changes in someone's expression, the things left unsaid. And once you notice them, you start analyzing and analyzing until it becomes this endless loop. Psychologists call it rumination. It's like chewing the same thought over and over again, hoping it'll break down and give you some clarity. But instead, it just gets soggier, more confusing, and harder to swallow. And here's where it gets trickier. The more you ruminate, the more your brain wires itself to keep doing it. It's like carving a path in the forest. The more you walk it, the deeper it becomes. Over time, it becomes automatic, a mental reflex. You face uncertainty, cue the spiral. Your brain thinks it's helping. It's saying, let's go over it one more time just to be sure. But instead of finding clarity, you just get lost in the weeds. For some people, the loop is triggered by uncertainty. If you grew up in an environment where things felt unpredictable, you might have developed overthinking as a defense. You learned to pre-analyze every scenario, because that's how you avoided trouble. You became hyper-aware, hyper-prepared, hyper-vigilant. It made sense back then. But now, that same habit keeps you stuck. It makes you feel like you have to control everything in your head before you act, before you speak, before you decide. And that kind of control is exhausting. It's like trying to carry every possibility with you at all times. Let's talk about relationships. Ever sent a text and then spent the next 3 hours wondering if it sounded okay? Or overanalyzing why someone took an hour to reply? You create entire storylines in your head. Maybe they're mad. Maybe you came off too needy. Maybe you should have used a different emoji. Your brain is running simulations, drafting scenarios, rewriting the past and scripting the future, and it's all happening in your head. Meanwhile, in real life, the other person might have just been busy. But your mind doesn't accept simple answers. It wants certainty, and when it doesn't get it, it spins. Now add social media to the mix. It's turned overthinking into a full-time job. You're constantly comparing your life to others, wondering if you're doing enough, saying enough, looking like you've got it all together. You second-guess the photo you posted, You reread your message 5 times before hitting send. You rehearse entire conversations in your head before you have them. You're overthinking how you're overthinking. The brain is doing exactly what it was designed to. It just wasn't built for this kind of constant pressure. Overthinking doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's usually powered by something called cognitive distortions. These are like little lies your brain tells you. Catastrophizing, believing the worst will happen. Mind reading, assuming you know what others are thinking. All or nothing thinking, seeing things as either perfect or a total disaster. When these thoughts pop up, your brain treats them as facts, even when they're just anxious guesses. The more you try to solve the thought, the more it resists. Because overthinking feels productive. It feels like you're doing something, planning, preparing, being responsible. But often, you're just rehearsing pain, without any new outcome. It's like rocking in a chair. You're moving, but you're not getting anywhere. Another big reason behind overthinking is anxiety. Not just the anxious feeling, but the actual psychological condition. Studies show that people with anxiety disorders tend to engage in excessive thought loops as a way to reduce discomfort. They believe that if they can just think enough, they'll find safety. But thinking doesn't always lead to clarity. Sometimes it leads to confusion, because thoughts don't always bring answers. Sometimes they just bring more thoughts. Overthinkers often freeze when it comes to making choices, big or small. Should I take this job? Text them back? End this relationship? Your brain pulls out a dozen possibilities for each one, weighs every outcome, imagines every consequence. Because to the overthinking mind, certainty feels like safety. But certainty doesn't exist. No matter how much you think it through, you can't predict the future. And the more you try, the more exhausted you become. It's a trap. One that wears down your confidence, your creativity, and your ability to act. You can't stop overthinking because your brain has mistaken it for protection. It believes that if it just keeps spinning, you'll avoid pain, avoid regret, avoid disappointment. But life doesn't work like that. Avoiding pain isn't always possible. And even if it were, it would mean avoiding living. Psychologists say that overthinking is often tied to control. When things feel uncertain, your relationships, your goals, your future, your mind tries to grip harder. It tries to analyze every move, prepare for every outcome. But control is an illusion, and your brain wasn't designed to carry the entire world in your head. You were meant to feel it, live it, experience it, not overthink it. Overthinking is often mistaken as being careful, being prepared, being responsible. But at its core, it's driven by fear. Fear of messing up, fear of being misunderstood, fear of regret. And the more we fear those things, the louder our thoughts get. It becomes harder to tell the difference between a real threat and a mental one. There's also the idea of perfectionism. Many overthinkers set impossibly high standards for themselves. They replay conversations because they think they should have said something better. They analyze decisions because they're afraid of making the wrong one. But perfection is a moving target. No amount of thinking will make things perfect. It only makes you tired. And sometimes, overthinking is about identity. You've tied your worth to your thoughts. You believe that if you just figure it all out, you'll finally be okay. But you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. And sometimes, the best clarity comes not from thinking more, but from stepping back and watching. The modern world has made it harder to do that. Notifications, deadlines, social comparison, they keep your mind in overdrive. But the mind wasn't meant to run 24/7. It needs space, stillness, silence. And that's hard to come by these days. Overthinking doesn't mean you're broken. It means your brain is doing what it learned to do. It's trying to help. But sometimes, helping looks like holding on too tightly. Understanding why you overthink is the first step toward loosening that grip, not by forcing it to stop, but by seeing it for what it is, a protective reflex, a survival habit. a mind trying to care for you in the only way it knows how. There are layers to overthinking. The surface layer is the thought itself, but underneath that are emotions. And underneath those emotions are beliefs. Beliefs about who you are, what you deserve, what you fear. Until those beliefs shift, the overthinking will continue. Not because you're weak, but because your mind thinks it's keeping you safe. So next time your thoughts start spinning, remember this. Your mind is trying to protect you, but you are allowed to rest. You are allowed to not have it all figured out. You are allowed to be unsure. And in that space of uncertainty, you might just find something your thoughts could never give you: peace. And maybe that's what it's really about. Not silencing your thoughts, but learning to coexist with them. To let them come and go without grabbing on. Because when you stop trying to control every thought, you make room for presence, for connection, for living. That's what your mind really wants. Not just to think, but to feel safe enough to stop. And sometimes the safest thing you can do is let go. If you're into psychology and understanding how the mind works, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more.